Proverbs 31. The words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. What, my son, and what, the son of my womb, and what, the son of my vows? Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law, and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Open thy mouth for the dumb, in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field, and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up, and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Brother Lucas, would you pray for our service?
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for service. Give us ears to hear your word. For the passion of your Holy Spirit and your wisdom, and you teach the message.
All right. Well, this evening I would like to preach on a somewhat sensitive topic. The title of my message this evening is Women at Work. Women at Work. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm going to try to go slow. Those that know me, I tend to speed up and go really fast, but I'm going to relax a little bit on this chapter and on this message. I think it's an appropriate message in that there is an unhealthy imbalance with Christians, independent fundamental Baptists, when it comes to the topic of women at work or women working or a working woman. Individuals, Christians, they have different ideas about it. And I want to look at some examples from the Bible that we can learn from and just put on our thinking caps, because when it comes to being a Baptist, there are cultural things and there are doctrinal things that will define or they will align what Baptists do or what they believe. And I want to stick with the Bible. I want to stick with truth and start there and then think about what is actually happening in our society, what is happening to our women. And this message is not only for women, okay? Whenever Proverbs 31, men and women alike should have read Proverbs 31 multiple times. And I'm not bringing to you some commentary or some worldly examples. I want to look at the Bible and look at some examples and encourage everyone under the sound of my voice to just think about what you're reading. Think about what we just read, Proverbs 31, and think about the imbalance that there is in our world today when it comes to the phrase women at work. Now, throughout my life driving down the road, I've seen signs on the side of the road that will say men at work. And, the big construction sign, rectangular sign or square sign says men at work, but I've never seen a sign that said women at work. And the reason is because that type of work that's being done out there is done by men. And so you want to alert the drivers that, hey, there are men working here. Now, you could say, well, men in that context is just referring to people. Okay, well, that's fine. As we go through what the scriptures talk about here when it comes to the topic of women working, let's think about that, and let's think about what does it mean for a woman to work, or for someone to say a working woman. What does that even mean from a biblical standpoint? Okay. The first thing I want to mention is that we all need to understand that women do work. Okay, women, don't get it in your head that, no, women are not supposed to work at all. That's a mistake, because I'm married to one and she works a lot, right? She works for me, she works for the family, she works for the Lord, she works a lot. And so to just say that, no, woman, you don't need to work, I'll do everything. No, that's not a biblical attitude whatsoever. And the Bible also does not say that women only work in the house. Now, I want to be clear. Yes, women do need to work in the house, okay? And the Bible teaches that. But is that the only place that women are to be working? Because some people will say, well, it's sinful for a woman to work somewhere else other than the house. She needs to be in the house. She needs to be working in the house. But when it comes to a working woman, there are some things, and we just read through Proverbs 31, there's some things where she's going to need to go outside of the house, do some work to accomplish the job that she's doing. Now, go ahead and flip to Genesis chapter 24. Women should work at home, but there may be a situation where the woman needs to work outside of the home. And I want to explain that, and I want to go slowly through it, because I know some people are going to be upset because Independent Fundamental Baptists, women and men, they get mad, get upset, get depressed, get agitated when they feel like they are sinning when they have their wife doing some work that is not in the house. Again, she needs to be doing work in the house. No problem there. But there are some cases where she needs to go outside of the house. And I have it broken down into 4 categories. I don't want anyone to feel left out, but just to make it simpler to consume the content that I'm presenting, I've broken it into 4 categories. And those 4 categories are, you have, this is from a biblical standpoint, you have the virgin or the maiden. Okay, that is a woman who has not been married. She is not married. Typically, she lives with her parents. Now, I know there's all kinds of, but what about this? But what, you didn't include this. I'm not trying to exclude anyone. I'm just saying what we call in my industry the happy path. This is what is generally the way that it goes. A virgin or a maiden, she typically lives with her parents. That's normally how it is. Yes, she might be living with an uncle or an aunt. I understand that. But I broke it down into these 4 categories so we can understand and we can kind of follow along what is being presented. The second category is the wife woman. And she typically is living with her husband, right? She has a husband. She's made vows. She is married unto this man. She's living with him, okay? The Bible teaches that she needs to reverence her husband. She needs to obey her husband. He's her boss. And I'm not disagreeing with that. That's what the Bible teaches. She works for him and the household, as we've seen in Proverbs 31. But there are cases where the husband may need her to go outside of the household and do some work, okay? Sometimes there are children involved, right? With the wife, sometimes there are children. So the wife usually lives with her husband, and there may be children there. The third category is the widow. The widow. This is a woman whose husband has passed away. He has died. And oftentimes the widow, she does not live with anyone. Typically she'll live by herself. But in some cases, she's living with another relative or a friend because she has not remarried. Well, the Bible does teach if widows, especially young widows, they ought to get married. We'll get to that a little bit later. But it's a good idea, a good thing for the widow to get married. But widows, they, in many cases, will need to work as well because there's no man that's providing for her. There's no man that's going out and working for her. And sometimes widows, they have children. They have children that are living with them. They're staying with them, and there's no husband around. So those children, they need to be taken care of as well. So they need support as well. So that's the third category. The fourth category is the divorced woman. And the divorced woman, she is no longer married. The happy path is that she reconcile with her husband. That is the happy path. That's what should happen, but that does not always take place. She's no longer married. Sometimes she is alone as well, where the husband is not in the picture. He's still living, which is why she is not to remarry, because her husband is still living. And there's typically also children involved in that situation as well. Well, a divorced woman, she also needs to be able to work, needs to be able to eat, needs to be able to feed the children. And so 3 out of the 4 of these categories, there are dependents, there are other people that are involved. Most of the time they're children, they are minors, they're younger than 18, and they need to be cared for, and there's no man in the picture. I am sensitive to that fact here, but I do want us to think about those 4 categories. You might come up with other categories, but think about those 4 categories when it comes to the topic of women working, because there needs to be some provision done here, especially when these men have done wickedly. They put their wife away. They, went away. In this case of the divorced woman, all right, there needs to be work done there. And the woman a divorced woman should not think, well, I'm in sin if I'm going to work. I mean, your husband or the one that you've divorced, he should be providing for you and the children, you and the family. But if he doesn't, what if he doesn't? Well, you got to work. You're going to have to work there. And so just keep these things in mind. I want to start with the virgin or the maiden. I had you turn to Genesis chapter 24. Let's start with the virgin or the maiden. This is a young woman who's living at home, and usually her parents are there also, but she's growing up. She's learning how to be a woman, right? She's learning to be a woman, a married woman with children is what she ought to be learning. She should be learning that from her parents. Okay, that would be a great place to learn that from them. And so I want to look at the situation here in Genesis 24. The context is Abraham, he dispatches his servant to go find a wife for his son Isaac. He wants Isaac to get married. He wants Isaac to marry a specific woman. And he gives specific instructions to the servant to find this woman. Look down at verse number 13. Go ahead and look at verse 13. It says, "Behold, I stand here by the well." This is the servant talking. "The well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water." Now, I do want to pause on this verse because this shows us here that there are young women, daughters of this city, of this town, that they're doing work. This is hard work here that they're doing. And the servant, he's looking for a virgin wife from this city for his master's son. That's what the servant's looking for. So he's like, oh, well, here's a place where women go frequently. They go here regularly. And what are they doing? They are drawing water. Now, have you ever seen someone have to get water out of a well? What they typically have is a bucket or some type of vessel, a large vessel, maybe 4 or 5 gallons, and they have to dip that down there. Rebecca and all these daughters did not ask a man to do this job. They had a job to do, and they were doing it. So going to the well and drawing water, that was these daughters' job. Okay, that was an occupation. That was something they had to do. They had to do that work. So they had to get the jar, put it on their shoulder, walk out to the well, get the water out of the well, take it back. Okay, that is work. And these daughters there are doing it. And what that reminds me of is, young daughters should learn to drive. It's not sin for a virgin young woman, an unmarried woman, to get a driver's license to drive. Why? Because we read in Proverbs 31 that one of the things that the virtuous woman does is that she goes out of the house, she considers land, and she buys it. That's work. Now, in Proverbs 31, it's mostly talking about a wife, and we're not talking about that topic right now. But what is a great thing for a young virgin to learn? How to be a wife, how to serve her family, how to work and, earn for her family, or be able to identify some land out there and be able to buy that land for her family. That makes sense. Okay, there's no problem with that. And here we see an example where Rebekah, she was selected as the wife for Isaac. And so, I've heard of some saved men that they don't want their wives driving. I'm not condemning that at all. But what I would say is that it's harder, it would be more difficult for her to work for the family if she is going to follow Proverbs 31 and go out and be able to essentially shop, right? Now, she can walk to the store. Okay, she could go out and walk, she can ride a bike and all those things. But if you think about that, it's like, well, it would be easier for her if she were to drive. She could walk. She could ride a bike, ride a scooter. Yeah. But I'm not going to condemn my daughter from getting a driver's license to be able to learn how to drive, because I think that will help her husband in the future. She will be a very good help. And that is the point. That is the point of a young woman, a virgin, a maiden, for her to learn how to be a help for her husband. Okay. And that will help him. So there's no condemnation on a virgin getting a license, working out of the house. I'll get to that. Going out of the house, doing some job here, we see that is actually a good thing for Rebekah. Now, what did Rebekah actually do? Look at verse number 16. It says, and the damsel was very fair to look upon. So she was attractive. She's a beautiful young lady, a virgin. So she's a virtuous woman. She has never known a man. It says, neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. So she knew directions. She knew how to, get from point A to point B. She knew how to, put a plan together, decide how large the vessel needed to be. I mean, all this stuff is involved in doing the work. That is a lot of work. And she went, it sounds like she went by herself. Obviously, other women went there too, but she went there by herself to get water. How did she get the water? Well, it says here, she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. So she actually had to fill that pitcher up. Has anybody lifted a 5-gallon jug of water, a 5-gallon case of water? Water weighs 8 pounds per gallon, okay? So 5 gallons, and you're talking about 40 pounds? Woman doing that? Some people are like, what? No, wait. Yes, wait. Yeah, women need to be able to pick up things, right? They need to be able to work. Women at work there's not a problem with that, okay? She needed to be able to put this vessel down into the water, pull it back up, put it on her shoulder, and walk back to her house. Now, let's say we're still doing that today, but with cars. I think Rebekah would say, you know what? I'm not going to walk today. I'll just take the Jeep. And, I'll just take the S10 or whatever. I'll put it in she's got to have a license in this country to do that. So she would have to get a license. Hopefully everyone's following along with what I'm trying to say here. When it comes to women working, yeah, that is a good thing. It should not be condemned. Now, there are certain types of work that should be condemned that women should not do, and I will talk about those. But there are kinds of work that women should do, okay? And primarily for a virgin or a maiden, she should be learning the skills to be a woman or a wife, I guess the next category, to become a wife. Now flip over to Esther chapter 2. Esther chapter 2, this is another example I want to kind of draw our minds to. The other thing that's fascinating with Rebekah, a part of the selection process, a part of what the servant was looking for is for a woman to say, yes, I'll feed, or I'll water you and your camels. Like I'll give water to both. So that's extra work that she had to do. She didn't just get water for her family. No, she got water for the servant and then went down, got some more water and watered the camels, or gave the camels drink. Now in Esther chapter 2, Esther is a great book to study. I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in there. It's a great study in itself. The context here is that Queen Vashti of the Persian Empire at the time, she disrespected her husband, the king, King Ahasuerus, and he wanted to remove her as queen. Some of the advisors said, hey, we can't have her as queen disrespecting you in this manner. Otherwise, all the women in your kingdom, they're going to disrespect their husbands in the same way because of the example that's set by Queen Vashti. And so the king, he was pleased with this idea of, okay, well, let's get rid of Queen Vashti and let's replace her with another queen. Now, they had this process. This is not I wouldn't say this is a normal process, but they had a process of selecting who the next queen would be. This year-long process, they would go throughout all of Persia, find the beautiful virgins, bring them in, and then for 1 year, they would be assigned maidens, other virgin women that would help them throughout their year-long process. Let's just look at verse number 9 in Esther chapter 2. It says, and the maiden pleased him. This is Esther, or Hadassah. Hadassah is her Israelite name. Esther is her Persian name. And it says, and she obtained kindness of him. That's King Ahasuerus. Or I'm sorry, that's Hegai, the captain or the leader of all the women. And he speedily gave her things for purification, which with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Again, another verse here where you might say, well, I mean, there's nothing deep going on here, but what are we talking? We're talking about working women. We're talking about maidens. We're talking about virgins, the jobs that they had. These maidens, there were 7 that were assigned to Hadassah, Esther, okay? And they were assigned to her for her purification process that took 12 months. And what did they do? Notice, no men were assigned to her. Why? Because they were meet for her. They were necessary for her. There are women things, there are women jobs, women work that only women can do. There are things about women that you have to have a woman there to help them with those processes. You have to, that help them and guide them through all of that. And so one of the jobs for a woman is taking care of other women, right? Taking care, making sure that she has, all of it says here, such things as belonged unto her. Now, I mean, there's a woman I live with, so there are things like hair products and all that type of stuff. There's a lot of things that women have, okay? But it would be better if she had maidens that actually knew of those things, knew about how those different products work and all of that for feminine products and all of that. You got to have a woman to be able to work in that category, that area, to be meet or be satisfactory to helping that woman. Okay, and so a virgin, or that category of a virgin, a maiden, this is a great job. Jobs that allow a woman to look after other women, such as salons, right? I've never seen a man go into a salon, and a part of that is because a salon is for women. Men, when they get their hair done, they go to a barber. Why is there a difference? Well, there's different processes. I mean, usually women have longer hair. They have other things that they're taking care of, different ways of washing it. I mean, men, you can wash our hair with just about any liquid. It doesn't really matter. And so there's a barber and then there's a salon. Now, if a man is going to a salon, there's probably something wrong with him. He might be a homo or something, okay? A salon is for women. That's what it's for. And so young women, unmarried women, virgins, maidens, yeah, it would be great if they learned how to do hair, right? Learn how to do hair, learn how to make dresses, make clothing, learn how to cook. These are all things. I mean, becoming young women, you're not married. Well, you should learn these things. And there are jobs, there are skills that you can learn these if you can't learn them from your parents or from your mother. The primary place to learn these things would be from your mother. Why? Well, she's a woman. At one point, she was a virgin. She was a maiden. She grew up, had you. You're the daughter now. And so you are the daughter now doing the work. And so, yeah, it's okay. It's not sinful. It's not sinful to have a salon. It's not sinful to make clothing for other women. It's not sinful for you to just help other women. I mean, I could never advise a woman when it comes to women things, okay, women categories. But another woman could. I mean, a younger woman could help an older woman. An older woman can help a younger woman. Right? There's plenty of jobs out there for women, young women, to take and do where they get paid for that. And that is their job. That helps them when they become a wife, when they go to the next category. Now, another good job for a virgin would be watching children, looking after small children. Why? Why is that such a great thing or a great job for a virgin? Well, because eventually one day she is going to get married and she's going to have children and she's going to be able to help her husband because she can take care of the children. So if she had a job where she's, watching someone else's children, or if she, were feeding other children, she's learning how to be a wife. That's good. There's no problem with her to learn how to be a wife and to get paid doing it. And so we have these maidens or virgins, these unmarried women that here in the palace, they were working in the palace. Okay. The palace sounds like that they were not at home. They were in the palace where the king was, because they worked for the king, they worked for Hegai, they worked for all these people in the palace. And so their job was to see after the feminine needs of the potential queens. That was their job. And that's a good job too. A job to promote the health of other women. Well, that's a good job for virgin women. Now, I want to read for you Proverbs chapter 14. You can flip back to Proverbs 31. Proverbs 13:1 says, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands." Now, given the context of Proverbs 31, that's a very sensitive verse there in Proverbs 14, because it says a wise woman is going to build her own household. So the priority for the virgin or for the wife or for the widow or for the divorced, the priority is her own household. Her household first. So any job or any means of supporting the family, it's all for her household first. Not going out and I'm going to work for this other guy over there. Well, what about your family? What about your mom? What about your dad? What about your brothers? You work for them first, your household first. Then you could say, I want to go out here. Well, hold on. What about your family? Work for your family first. It says in Proverbs 31, drop down to verse number 10. So the first category was the virgin or the maiden, the unmarried women. The second one is the wife. She is married, usually has children, but not all the time. Okay, wives don't always have children right away. We've already seen how many of the wives in the Bible, they were barren at one time. Sarah, we went through that. Sarah, Rebecca also was barren for a while. Verse number 10 says, "Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies." Now, this is talking about a virtuous, truthful, trustworthy, honest woman. Her value is way above rubies. And when it says the virtuous woman, it's not just talking about the virgin or the maiden, but it's also talking about the wife. And the primary woman that's being mentioned in Proverbs 31 is a woman that's transitioning from a virgin to a wife, and then also a wife because there's children in there as well. Proverbs 18:22 says, "Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord." Every woman, when it comes to a working woman, ought to be having this on their mind, that whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And so before you become a wife, you ought to be thinking, well, am I prepared to be a wife? Am I prepared to work for my husband? Am I prepared to work for my children or to provide for my children? Excuse me. I want to be clear with the language. Am I ready for that? Well, you need to learn about children, learn about working in the house, and there's a lot of jobs in the house. Okay, I mentioned some of them. There's plenty of jobs. There's plenty of work in the house. Priority is for the home, but there may be times where the woman needs to go out of the house to work and bring back to the house the result of that work. Oftentimes, this is the wife. Look at verse number 11. It says, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. He doesn't need to be stealing stuff because he trusts his wife to do what? To produce something, produce some work for the household. He could trust her. This is a part of a virtuous woman, a virtuous wife. She is trustworthy. Her husband can actually trust her. That is a priority. And so, when it comes to trust is something that is earned. Earned things are worked for, right? So it may not be, lifting something or scooping out water, but women need to learn, right? To work or do that, put that effort forward so that they can be trustworthy. They can earn trust of a man that wants, no man wants an untrustworthy wife. Because it's going to upset him. He's not going to be able to get things done. He's going to be confused. There's all this horrible things that will happen from that. But a virtuous woman, well, she's great because she is trustworthy by her husband. And so the work that she does ought to be work that is producing value for that household, for that family. Verse number 12, it says, she will do him good and not evil. All the days of her life, she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. Well, how about that? In Proverbs 31, it says that she's willing to work. One of the things that happens with an idle wife or an idle woman is they get pulled away by some other thing, whether it's gossip or nowadays just being on the phone all the time, just looking things up on the phone, just staying on the phone, gossip, emails back and forth, messages back and forth. What is she working? What is she doing for the family? What is she producing? Don't fall into the trap of being attracted by the world to where you're not doing anything at all, but you're just being an idle virgin or an idle wife. You don't want to do that because it harms the entire family. And the priority ought to be working for your family. Here in verse 13, it says, she seeketh wool. That is work. Wool, I don't know about fabrics or wool, but wool and flax, they're used for making clothing or making fabric that clothing can be made from. And to seek it out means that you have to go and examine the cloth. Now, I've been in Joann Fabrics before, okay, and they have all these rolls of fabric, and I've seen women come in there and they're examining the fabric. In my mind, I'm like, just grab some, just get the piece. But there's some work involved with identifying that fabric, identifying what's good fabric. If it's too rough, I don't know all the details, but if it's too rough or too soft or it's not right or whatever, well, she's got to be able to identify that. So here I clearly see an example of a woman who is a master of fabrics, making clothing, selecting wools, selecting these different materials to make clothing. Making clothing, that is a woman's thing to do. That's a woman's job to do. Making clothing, knowing how the clothes fit, knowing how they look, knowing what fabric goes with what. And the Bible says here, and she's working willingly. She wants to do it. She wants to do it. She wants to work with her hands. So I would not tell a woman, you know what? You don't need to work at all. No, I'd say, hey, what are you doing with your hands? What are you doing for your future husband? If you're married, what are you doing for your husband, for your household? Are you looking to do him good, or are you looking to do him evil by just being idle all the time and not doing anything? When she was taught by her mother at home, she was unmarried and she learned a lot of things. She probably learned, how to take care of children, how to cook, how to make clothing, how to do hair. I mean, these are things that a young woman, a virgin, could learn to do. But then when a married woman, well, these are also jobs that a married woman would also do as well. And so you can't say, well, when you're married, then learn all these things. Well, hold on a second. A virgin can learn these things as well, so that when she becomes a wife, then she can take those job qualities into being a wife, and priority is working for her husband. But if she has a clothing store or a fabric store that she is working there, and she's the boss, or her husband is the boss, right? That could be the scenario too. Her husband has owns a franchise of Joanne Fabric or whatever, and she's working there. Great. I think that's great. She's working. Working in the house is not the only thing that a woman could do, whether she be a virgin or a wife. Okay. It's about producing value for her family. Now go ahead and flip to Titus chapter 2. Titus chapter 2. A woman that knows how to work with her hands and produce value, she is a valuable asset to her family, to her children, being able to provide clothing. Let's look at some examples here in Titus chapter 2. It says here, the aged woman, likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. It would be a great job for a wife or a woman to have a training, ground or a tutoring where they're teaching young women how to do all these things, right? That'd be a great thing where there's a tutorship, or I'm not sure how I would call it, but if she had maybe a business where she's teaching young women how to love their husbands, how to love their children, that is a job. And anybody who's looking for a job, I mean, that's something that's very valuable. I mean, there's a lot of women out here that they need to learn. They need to know how to love their children. They need to learn how to love their husband. And here the Bible says, well, the aged women, they should do these things. They should teach the younger women to do these things. Now, it does say keepers at home. That's included. It's not the only thing. And a keeper at home, like I said, there's a lot of jobs at the house that have to be done, that need to be done while the husband's away working. And so that's why I would say there are jobs that women should not be doing. Okay, I don't think women should be going to become police officers. That is tough. That is a crazy job. All right, where you have to enforce the law. Somebody's not obeying the law, and you have to go and deal with them, whether they get arrested or what have you. No woman should have to deal with going up to someone that's a criminal or a potential criminal, and they look at her and they attack her. Why would she do that? Why is that attractive to any woman? It's a rhetorical question. I don't expect anyone to answer it. I don't expect any woman. I'm not looking for a woman to say, I'm going to be a police officer. No, I don't think that's a good idea. At all. And another problem that comes with being a police officer, they do get into physical altercations with these criminals and survive. But you know what? They get beat up in the process. And women, they have the unique ability to be able to carry other humans. That is something unique to the woman. They can have children. And if they get damaged, or if they damage their body, damage their womb from working out here as a police officer, well, now she has just allowed her ability to reproduce be destroyed. And it's a beautiful thing for a woman to be able to have children and to just go into a job where that can just be taken from you or just destroyed, or just, that is very sad to me. I don't like it at all. And it's the same thing like with, a woman that wants to go out to be a soldier. Now, I know there are women soldiers that work in the office and all of that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ones that go out on the field. They're a sniper, or, they set booby traps and all this stuff out in the field. A woman doesn't need to be doing that. Now, there's other reasons too. I mean, the typical soldier that's out in the field weighs over 200 pounds. Okay, so if I were a soldier, I would want someone who can carry 200 pounds, because if I get shot and I fall down, I want the other soldier to carry me. In many cases, they have the Marines and the Army, they have lowered the standard for what a soldier needs to carry. That's not good, because there are soldiers, there are soldiers 6 foot tall, 250 pounds, 300 pounds. You got to be able to carry 250 pounds out there. 300 pounds in some cases. That's the job for a woman is not to be, dragging a 300-pound man somewhere. That's not even appropriate. We saw Rebecca. I mean, if Rebecca carried a 10-gallon bucket, right? A 10-gallon bucket that that's only 80 pounds. Okay, so it's not. Just follow me here. There are some jobs that women just should not be doing. Period. Okay, but there are a lot of jobs that women should be doing and can do, and I encourage they should do. So when it comes to women at work, okay, women ought to work too. They do a lot of work. They can do a lot of work. Very, very capable. Women aren't people that can't do anything. No, they can do a lot. But there are some things that women should not do, just as there are things that men should not do. Men should not be working in a salon. Okay, should not. I want to be clear on that. A barber? Oh yeah, go ahead. Men all day. Go ahead. Open up a barber shop. Okay, I think that's fine. I had you turn to Titus 2:3. Go ahead and flip back to Proverbs chapter 31. Proverbs 31. Now, another great job for a wife is teaching. Why women are probably the best teachers out there. I don't know about you, but every time I've been in an airport, the voices, the intercom, most of the time it's like a woman's voice. Warning you about where you put your luggage, and warning you about the flight that's about to take off, and all these different things. I think part of that's intentional. Women have a way of just speaking. Whether it's a recorded voice or not, they have a way of speaking where you're actually listening, like, oh, okay, well, you're paying attention. But when a guy is talking, oftentimes people kind of just like, oh, all right, well, whatever. But when a woman's talking, it's, oh, okay. What's she saying? What is she teaching? Well, if she's teaching, she has a way of teaching, and teaching the children is the best thing. Women teaching other women and women teaching children. Great jobs. Tutoring or what have you, those are great jobs for women. And Proverbs 31, look at verse number 18. Oh, I'm sorry, 15, verse 15. It says, she riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her husband and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. We kind of talked about that, but planting a vineyard, that's work too. Right? Planting a garden, going out planting a garden. But a vineyard is not just a regular garden. I mean, she's growing grapes and other fruits there for juices. The woman is doing this. The wife is doing these things. Look down at verse number 18. It says, she perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. So she's staying up late, making sure that the product that she makes, her merchandise, and there's plenty of products that women can make, right? I already talked about making clothing, but there's all kinds of things. I mean, books for children, clothing, hair products, all kinds of things that meet the needs of other women. Great. She could produce all these things. There's no problem with producing all these things. Planting a vineyard. We see also in this chapter where right here, her candle doesn't go out at night. It means she's staying up late, right? She's staying up late, making sure she's getting her work done. She's checking the quality of her merchandise. It's not just slapped together. Oh, let me just put this together. No, there's high quality in her work. So yeah, and women have a good eye for things that are of quality. And the Bible here shows an example of the Proverbs 31 woman, virtuous woman, wise woman, she's looking after the quality. Look at verse 19. It says, she layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. Those are two components on a spinning wheel that makes fabric. It says, verse 22, she maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Now, silk and purple, those are very expensive fabrics. Well, how does she get the money for those expensive fabrics? You could say, well, okay, well, maybe her husband provided. Well, she has a job. She's creating clothing. She's making sure she's producing high quality in her work. She could have made that money herself. She could have made that money herself because she's making this clothing for her family first, but then also for others outside of the family, people who are wanting to purchase the clothing that she's producing. This is her working. She's not just staying in the house, just, serving her family. She's serving her family first. She's working for her family first, but then also she's a smart, wise woman. She's got skills. She can produce this high quality fabric, these high quality clothing that other people, oh, I like that. There's a business right there. There's a business where they can come to her and they can buy the fabric that she is producing. Her husband is not producing this fabric here or this clothing. Look at verse 24. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. So she's got delivery routes now. She has a route to actually deliver the goods that she's producing. Very interesting, right? Nowadays, we have truck drivers. Well, she is putting the stuff on the truck and having her employees go take that stuff out. Take it to the merchant. She's delivering this stuff that she's producing. She's selling it. That sounds like a working woman to me. The Bible does not say she cannot work. Women work. We can't have this in our mind that, the woman knows she just can't work, because that actually hurts the woman too. They will get depressed when they're thinking, oh, it's just sinful for me if I go to try to make some money. I have the skills. A lot of women, they have got great skills. They just need to be submitted under an authority. Her husband first, and she needs to be working for her family first. Women should not be teaching or tutoring other men. Women should not be doing that. The main problem with that is the man will take advantage. That is the huge risk. The man will take advantage of a woman. If it's just a man and a woman, just, oh yeah, so turn to chapter 3 on this calculus problem here. He's not thinking about calculus if it's just him and the woman by themselves. She needs to be tutoring other women and children is what she needs to be. That's a job in itself that she could be doing. Now, in the case of the wife or the divorced woman or the widow, when there are children, well, what if the children are not at home anymore? Because here's the thing, when there's children at the home, the woman's work is going to be centered around the children, taking care of the house, guiding the house, being a keeper at home, because those children are there. But when the children grow up, they get married and they leave, well, she's at the house by herself. So she can work. Like she maybe she's good at painting things, or maybe she's good at, analyzing words or documents or something. She can do all of that work. It's not just throwaway work. She's got these skills. The children are not there. She's not taking care of the children anymore. She doesn't have to teach the children because they're not there. She could do another job where she's not just idle, just waiting for her husband to come home. Already did the clothes, already washed the dishes, already cleaned the house. That doesn't take very long for a working woman. That doesn't take long at all. So what's she going to do for the rest of the time? Well, she's got skills. Say, well, she needs to be reading the Bible. Yeah, spend a couple of hours reading the Bible. There's 24 hours in a day. Everybody gets the same amount of hours during the day. Well, read for 2.4 hours. Okay, now what are you going to do for the rest of the time? You see, so she working, the woman, yeah, she can work. Okay, but she just needs to be doing woman's work. She does not need to be training on how to arrest people, okay, or how to tackle a man, or learn all these different kung fu styles. Now, I think a woman should know how to defend herself, right? Okay, people say, oh, the man needs to do that, but what if the man's not there? Because she went to go get the fabric. She went to go look at the vineyard. She went to go look at the field so she can buy it for her children or for her household. She went there, whether she walked, rode a bike, on a scooter, she drove because she has a license. Well, what if some guy's like, and tax her? Well, she needs to have, some skills. So I'm not opposed to a woman, being able to defend herself. But she doesn't need to be, dreaming, wow, how can I take down this guy? How can I fight him? How can I knock out this guy? No. She doesn't even be thinking, how to, arrest anybody or anything like that. Okay, so go ahead and flip to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. I think I'm going to go a little bit quicker. And I do want to cover the divorced woman here. The last category is the widowed woman. But hopefully everyone's hearing what I'm saying. You can't just say, women just only work in the house. There's a problem there. And if any man says that his wife only works in the house, I mean, maybe they had that discussion. Maybe they figured all that, how they're going to do those things. But she could be a better help for her husband if she has a license, she can drive, she can go to the store, she can do all these things. That'll be a better help for her husband and for the household if she did that. I have heard of, you may think it's crazy, but I have heard of men, saved Baptist men, that say, nope, she just stays in the house. Okay, I mean, if that works for you, okay. But the Bible didn't say that she just needs to stay in the house. I'm fine with her staying in the house, that's okay, but, you are diminishing the amount of help that you can get from your help. I mean, the Bible describes the wife as a helper for the husband, and that would severely cripple that. So let's look at the divorced women. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse number 10, it says, and unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. That's divorce. The Bible teaches that a man and woman should not get divorced. The wife should not leave her husband. And it says here in verse number 11, but, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. So you see here, the Bible does teach against getting divorced. And, in this country, divorces are being handed out all over the place. I know that's taking place, but that's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that the two become one and they stay together till death do they part. And the Bible also teaches that, she can get remarried or the man can get remarried when the spouse passes away. That is perfectly fine. Notice also it says here, if she depart, let her remain unmarried. So that's the case, the divorced woman where she is not married anymore and there's no husband there. So she needs to get a job. She needs to work. She needs to especially if there's children involved, she's got to provide for her children, that even in the case of being divorced. Yes, the husband that she divorced, he is responsible. He needs to be taking care and paying for and providing for the children. But what if he doesn't? Does the woman just sit around and just like, well, And I understand that there are government programs. I'm not for all the government programs. I mean, the Bible gives us what we ought to do, but there are government programs. And I'm not going to preach about government programs, but women do go to the government, which is a whole nother sermon in itself. Flip over to Proverbs chapter 14. I read it before, but now I want everybody to read it. Proverbs chapter 14. So God commands that there be no divorce, but if it happens, well, the priority ought to be reconciliation, the husband and the wife. But if that doesn't work, the children still need to be provided for. Verse number 1, it says, every wise woman buildeth her house. So a wise woman is the one that's going to build her house. Now, it's not necessarily talking about you gotta, mud the brick and stack the brick up there. I mean, what if it's not a brick house, right? It's talking about the home, the husband, the children, everything in the home. She's a keeper at home. And it says that it's wise for a woman to build her house. That's work. It's work. Disciplining the children, taking care of the house, loving her husband. That is work. Now, she may not get a paycheck for it, okay, but that is still work. So yes, women do work. Now, the case of the divorced woman, she doesn't have a husband at home that she is loving or obeying. He has gone away or wherever he has gone, but she still needs to be able to provide for the children, especially if it's not coming from the husband. Now, this, providing for your children, the Bible talks about, you must provide for your own. That's the first priority. Taking care of your house is your first priority. And that's not specifically a woman thing. I mean, that is just a Christian thing. You need to provide for your family, okay? Flip to 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. It's a popular verse here. Verse 10, it says, "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat." And so the application of this, we see if there's a woman that does not have a husband or is not working, well, she's not going to be able to eat. I mean, unless she has a vineyard and she's only eating from the crops that come out of her garden, and that's where she's getting her sustenance from. Okay. So when you think about the Bible saying, like, if you don't work, you don't eat. Well, a woman by herself, who's providing for her? She can't just dismiss, well, I am not supposed to work outside of the house. But you do need to provide for your family and for yourself. You got to eat. And the Bible doesn't say, hey, you're just going to have to starve. No, there's things the Bible says. A divorced woman, she ought to reconcile with her husband. If that's not possible, well, she's got to work. She has to. That's what has to take place. Okay. She needs to get a job. She needs to get paid so she can buy food so that she can eat, especially if there's children involved. She needs to do that. Now, there are awful, wicked occupations out there that are attracting women. Okay. No woman should sell their bodies or sell alcohol or sell drugs for money. That is not a worthy job. That is a wicked job to do. Selling yourself, selling your body, no, no, no. Because women will say, well, I have to get a job now. Pastor Matthew said I didn't need to get a job. Well, the easiest thing I can do is just sell this alcohol or sell these drugs or sell my body. No! That's filthy wickedness. And that'll get you kicked out of church. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is become a hairdresser or learn how to make clothing, right? Learn how to read. I mean, they hire women to read the voiceovers for, I mentioned the airport, but all kinds of recordings of a woman's voice. Hey, that's a great job to do. A great job. Because as I mentioned before, a lot of people listen to a woman when she's speaking, and if it's recorded, they're like, oh, okay, what's the announcement? I mentioned this before. No woman should say, I'm going to be a fighting soldier. I'm going to get paid to beat people up. No. That's not a job for a woman. I mentioned a police officer. Being a police officer, not a job for a woman. Okay? Now, I know a lot of women, they are dispatchers, where they're the ones that are on the phone. You call 911. The majority of the time, a woman picks up. Hello, what's the emergency? Hey, that's a great job right there. Right? Where a woman, she is, speaking to the person, guiding them through what they need to do in this emergency situation. But not a police officer. No woman should get a job leading or teaching men. No, and so that includes like politics. There's like this huge explosion of women wanting to be senators, and we just had a woman that ran for president. No, that is not godly. That is not right. It doesn't work. Okay, that's the problem. It does not work. So no little girl should be like, oh, I'm going to be president one day. President of the United States. Over all these men? No, that's not a job for you, young lady. Look at verse number, or flip over to 1 Timothy chapter 5. 1 Timothy chapter 5. Look at verse number 8. 1 Timothy 5, verse 8, it says, "But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. An infidel is an unbeliever. So the Bible says if you are not providing for your family, for your own house, you are worse than an infidel. Now some people say, well, that's just for the man. What if he died and it's a widow? What if they're divorced and the guy just ran off somewhere? Well, the woman, she needs to take care of her own, take care of her household. How is she going to do that? How is she going to eat? She's not going to be a police officer. She's not going to sell her body. She's not going to sell drugs, all this weird stuff. No, she's going to learn how to make clothing. Have a salon. There's plenty of jobs that women can do, should do. I think it would be great. But no jobs that are against the Bible, no jobs that are filthy, and no jobs that will destroy your body, women. There are a lot of jobs out there. A man's body is designed for a lot of those jobs out there. Where, banging concrete, breaking up concrete, these handling these 1,000 degrees rivets and stuff, these big bolts and stuff. A man's body's we're just kind of designed for that kind of stuff. Woman should not be doing that because she could get harmed, she can get hurt, where a precious part of her body, which produces children, can get crushed. So no women should be in a job where they could risk not being able to have children anymore because of their job. Oh yeah, I'm in this job, occupational hazard, I just may not be able to have children. It's not a job for a woman. I'll go quickly through the last point, the last category, the widowed woman. You're in 1 Timothy chapter 5. Look at verse number 3. It says, honor widows that are widows indeed. So there's classifications of widows, and the Bible teaches about the different kinds of widows that there are. But a widow is basically a woman whose husband has died. It says, verse number 4, but if any widow have children or nephews, let them learn first to show piety at home. Where did they learn that? They learned it from the mother, the widow. Widows, they have children. That's where they learn that from. They learn reverence at home. What is piety? Reverence for godliness, reverence for righteousness, honor for authority. They learn that at home. That's where they should learn that. And they should learn that from the mom or their older sister, the women that are there. It says, and to requite their parents, or, return the favor, if you will, to their parents, respecting their parents, for that is good and acceptable before God. So it's good and acceptable before God for the children to learn piety at home. Now, let's see. Go ahead and look at verse number 5. It says, now she that is a widow indeed and desolate trusteth in God. That means she has no children. And continueth in supplications and prayers night and day. But she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth. That's because there is a temptation for a woman to just be idle and to consume pleasures all the day long when her widow or when her husband has died. Okay, her husband has died. Oh well, now I'm free or whatever, and she just wastes her time. She's not taking care of herself. She's not taking care of her house anymore. She's just, I'm just going to go be at the neighbor's house. And so they become busybodies and they become gossips. Being online all the time, Facebook or whatever, social media, it's the same thing. Okay, and that's what they learn to do and it's not just widows, but divorced women will do that. Wives will even do that. Okay, and even the virgins will do that. So it's not exclusive to the widow. Now in this chapter, there are 3 main points for caring for widows, because you have to, analyze, is she a widow indeed that ought to be taken care of by the church? Because there's, number 1, the family takes care of the widow. Number 2, the widow gets married or remarried. 3, the church takes care of the widow. So those are the 3 different categories that are taught in this chapter. And when it says the church takes care of, the church doesn't take care of a widow until she is 60 years old. So what does she do if she's 59? Right? Well, the Bible does teach that the younger widows, they need to get married. Right? They need to get married. But what if she doesn't get married? It's okay for her not to get married. Well, if she doesn't get married, well, she's got to work. It says right here, we've already read it, 1 Timothy 5:8, but if any provide not for his own, and especially those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. So her family primarily ought to be taking care of her as a widow, but yeah, she should get married, okay? Look at verse number 16. It says, if any man or woman that believeth have widows, let them relieve them. So that says if there's a widow that's either your sister or your cousin or in your family, well, you ought to relieve her. You ought to take care of her. You ought to be the ones who are providing for her. And if you can't, well, then she could get a job, right? She could work. It says, and let not the church be charged, which is another reason why I don't think the government should get involved. Let not the church be charged, that it may relieve them that are widows indeed. So a widow indeed in this chapter is a widow that is taken care of by the church and is 60 years old. So the second point here, look at verse number 11. It says in 1 Timothy 5:11 says, but the younger widows refuse. Now, it's not saying you're kicking them out of church, you're disfellowshipping with them. That's not what it's saying. It's just saying that they're not widows indeed that should be taken care of by the church. For when they have begun to wax wanton against Christ, that means they are filled with pleasures and all these lusts that she wants to do. It says they will marry, having damnation because they have cast off their first faith. And withal, they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. A working woman, well, she's got things to do. She's got people to take care of. She's not going to be drawn away by all of these, being a tattler and a busybody and a gossip. She's not going to be pulled into that. That's why this says, well, the younger ones, they're going to want to marry, right? Because they want to have a husband, which makes sense. But if she doesn't have a husband, well, to avoid, falling into all this sin here, well, she needs to be working for her family, and the family needs to be taking care of her or relieving her while she is unmarried. Verse number 14, it says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully, for some are already turned aside after Satan. So this is the ideal path that this widow ought to take. She ought to get married. She ought to have children, remarried, have more children if she didn't have any before. That's good for her to do that. But what if she can't do that? What if she's not doing that? She's just sitting around. Well, she should willingly, like we saw in Proverbs 31, willingly put her hands to work and produce something, some value for her family, some value so that she can learn, well, that I can be a wife in the future. I can remarry in the future. Look at verse number 9. We're kind of going all around here because the different points for taking care of the widow are scattered in this chapter. Verse number 9 is talking about the church taking care of the widow. It says, let not a widow be taken into the number under 80 years old, having been the wife of one man. Now there's a comma, but I want to pause here. So there's kind of like a list of qualifications for the widow that's 60 years old to be taken care of by the church. She was only married to one man. She was well reported of for good works. So she was known for doing good works in the church, known for being a good woman, teaching the younger women. She was known for these things. She's 60 years old. So yeah, the church should take care of her. It says, if she have brought up children, if she have lodged strangers, if she have washed the saints' feet. Look at all these jobs here. Lodging strangers, right? Lodging strangers, bringing up children, watching after children. That's another job there. If she have washed the saints' feet, and I do believe that is washing feet. Now, we don't do that here, but back then, people's feet, they didn't have the shoes that we have, so their feet got more dirty than what our feet get now. Wash the saints' feet. If she have relieved the afflicted, you know what relieving the afflicted is? That's like a nurse administering medicines, Dimetap or olive oil, lemon, whatever, administering those things. That is relieving the afflicted, helping the sick. That's another great job for a woman to do. If she have diligently followed every good work. So is this woman working? She's working. The widow, she's a worker. She's a hard worker. She's being taken care of by the church. She's 60 years old. She was married to a man. She raised up children. You see the list here. She was well reported of for good works. I mean, she's worthy of being taken care of by the church. And so we see these four categories, they involve work that a woman does. And so if anybody says, no, women don't need to work outside of the house, the home. Well, okay, well, that's fine. She has that arrangement with her husband. Okay, great. But there are some cases where, yes, she's going to need to work outside of the house. Yes, she needs to take care of the house, but she may need to go to the store or go to the field or go to the property to make sure everything's going okay over there. She may need to do those things. She does not need to go on the battlefield. She does not need to go into law enforcement. She does not need to do those things. But there's work for a woman to do. And, you know, this message is kind of compressed, but I wanted everyone to just be thinking about that phrase, women at work. Some people cringe, you know, Baptists cringe, oh, women at work, oh. Yeah, but when she's feeding the baby, she's working. Okay? When she's pushing the stroller, she's working. She may not be collecting a paycheck, but she's working. When she's cooking the food, especially if it tastes good, right? She's working hard. There's a lot of jobs out there that women ought to be doing, so don't get depressed. Oh, I can't do anything. As a woman, yes, there's a lot of things that you can do. You know, I'm not going to read down a list of all the jobs that a woman can do. I'm giving you some understanding what the Bible is teaching about a woman. And think about women versus men. Think about the different jobs. There's women and men are two different people, two different kinds of people. And so there's two different kinds of jobs for women and men. And we ought to keep that in mind when thinking about this topic of women or women at work. Let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, I do thank you for your word. I thank you for the virtuous woman that's displayed in Proverbs 31. I thank you that we can learn many things and have our ideology drawn towards your word, and that there are jobs and work that, you know, good work that women can do in all kinds of categories of women, Lord. And we do thank you for women that work and women that love you, that serve you, God. We are very thankful for the women that feed us here. God, we thank you for wives and widows and divorced women, the virgins. We're thankful for every single woman out there that does work for you, Lord. And we ask, God, that you would help us to adjust our thinking and not to condemn just work in general, but to help the younger women to understand that they are very valuable in today's world, very valuable for young children, for their future husbands, for their husbands, and very valuable to the church, Lord. Please bless everyone that's here, and let these words sink down into our hearts that we may carry it with us as we leave from church today. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, if you would, turn to our last song, 405, The Banner of the Cross.